Welcome on Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton of On Texas Football, Longhorn recruiting expert, team expert, does it all for us here at On Texas Football. Gerry, I appreciate you joining me on this Friday afternoon. We are going to talk a little something special, going a little off schedule with this NFL draft. And the reason we're going to talk NFL draft prospects of some of the Texas players is because of what the ULM defensive coordinator had to say and talked about the talent at Texas and how Texas was looking past them, that sort of stuff. That happens when you're a prohibitive favorite and you have the depth that Texas does. 44-point favorite heading in to tomorrow's game with ULM at 7 o'clock. Gerry, I mention all of this because you wrote an article for ontexasfootball.com this morning. And what we want to do in this episode of On Texas Football, we really want to dive deep and talk about a couple different things. The elite players that we got, guys that we see as elite on this roster. And we define that ostensibly as first-round draft picks. Okay. Now that first-round draft pick could extend into a top 50 in the country or in a draft, because a guy like Adonai Mitchell goes in right under 50, right? Last year, he was really a first-round graded prospect. And so you're looking at that. You put out a list on ontexasfootball.com today. Let's start there. And I want to say we're going to go position by position and also look at the depth of the team and where we think some other players might fit in an NFL type caliber offense or defense. Let's start with the four you have in this cycle, this NFL cycle for the Longhorns that you think are definite top 50 guys right now.
Yeah, I think one of them's going to be a bit of a wild card, but he's just rising up the draft as he, or the scouts, I should say, ascending as he plays more snaps. But obviously, Kelvin Banks and Quinn Ewers. Now, I think those are your most likely first-round guys right now. But will Quinn's, this 3 years in a row, he's missed time with injury. How much is that going to ding him in the draft? I think it's going to be interesting. But then I have Isaiah Bond and Cameron Williams. And the Cameron Williams talk, I know people don't want to hear it because he started a grand total of 4 games in college, 3 this year, but he's just going to keep moving up the draft boards for the scouts. He's already been talked about. Daniel Jeremiah from the Moves the Sticks podcast is saying he's already hearing it from scouts as well. Cameron Williams has a chance to be one of those one-year starters in college football that could go late first round. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it's a possibility. For those that don't think that can happen, Amarius Mims started 8 games at Georgia and went late first round. And so it's possible. Isaiah Bond, possible. He looked like he was going to run 4.28 at the combine Saturday against UTSA, streaking down the sidelines. And this Sark's offense has really helped open him up as a wide receiver. He's played plays at all 3 levels already this season. The big play against Michigan on 3rd down, splitting the corner safety with the ball over the top from Quinn. He's making plays after the catch in the screen game. You know, obviously you throw him that little bubble out there, and the UTSA guy takes a man-on-man angle to try to hit Matthew Golden in the chin, and Bond looks like he's running 4.25. So Bond's getting to show his entire skill set this year at Texas, and I think that's going to help him as the season moves along. So, Bobby, I have 4 guys that I think potentially are top 50 picks, and I can see Texas getting 3 first-rounders out of this.
Look, I agree with you 100%. Texas has these guys that are elite guys, but it's not just in this 2025 draft class, okay? And that's what makes Texas so appealing to many people right now. You look in the other groups, whether it's going to be 2027 or 2026 or 2027, these are the guys that you and I talked about as top 50 range picks in those classes, okay? Definitely Arch Manning. Anthony Hill, I think we both agree on those 2, right? Manny Muhammad has played his way into that. I think it will matter how well he runs, but he's just got kind of that natural glue a little bit. And then 2 true freshmen that I think have already entered that territory are Ryan Wingo and Colin Simmons.
Yeah.
So you're really looking at, if you take all 4 of those 2025 guys and the 5 in the other years, you're talking about 9 top 50 selections across various years in the program That's pretty strong, and it doesn't include guys that might be able to move into that category as well that we want to talk about. What do you make of Arch, Hill, Muhammad, Wingo, Simmons, that group as well?
If I had to order them right now for an NFL draft, the likelihood I would have Arch 1, Simmons 2, Wingo 3, Muhammad and Hill tie 4. So I think Muhammad's just his football intelligence is that of a top 10 pick. And I'm not saying he's going top 10, but I think that could vault him. It's like Terrion Arnold, right? Terrion Arnold last year at Bama, what did he run, 4.5, 4.52? I mean, if Manny Muhammad with his football intelligence and frame puts a 4.52 on the board, he has a chance to be a first-round pick. I don't think there's any doubt. Anthony Hill, he's really learning to play linebacker right now. How's he going to be in space? I mean, because these guys are just looking for warts at the NFL draft level. So I think the guys who Arch obviously is there, Colin Simmons, dynamic pass rush ability, who's also physical against the run. Ryan Wingo, obviously, there's 3 freshman receivers that are all going to be first rounders one day, and that's the kid Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, and Ryan Wingo. They'll have to sort it out who's 1, 2, and 3 in the draft they come out in 2 years. In 2 years. But those are the 5 guys for me, and speaks to it. Look, Texas, the quarterback depth, right? But then we're talking about an edge guy, a corner guy, a linebacker guy that wears the headset, right, or that wears the mic communication. Then in this draft, you're talking about 2 offensive tackles and a quarterback and a wideout. That's pretty much covering both sides of the ball. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I was going to say it's 6 different position groups represented by first-round talent. That's pretty strong. And what we're talking about really here is that. All right, Jerry, I want to, let's take a step back and instead of talking about elite talent, let's just go position by position and whether we think these guys have some NFL pedigree to them and a possibility. Of course, some guys we're not going to know yet. We get that happens. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. That is Laura Baker over at Keller Williams Realty and the Andy Allen team. She's got an open house coming tomorrow, 5011 Avenue F, number B, list price $775. Open house Saturday from 1 to 3. So before a football game, you want to make it in, go check out this house for Laura. It's over right off, I think, 45th, in between 45th and 50th Street. Near the old intramural fields in Austin. Also, she has one at Bell Mountain, 8501 Bell Mountain on Sunday from 2 to 4. In the post game, make sure you check it out. Give Laura Baker a call, 512-784-0505. Jerry, I look at it and thinking about this situation right now for the Longhorns and how blessed Texas is with all this talent. Let's just take it position by position. And when we sum up, we're going to make a prediction of how many guys are going to be drafted in the 2025 draft class, because that's important too. Well, let's start by going position by position. I think all 3 quarterbacks on this roster right now are future NFL prospects. There's no doubt with Ewers and Manning, we've already seen enough. I think Trey Owens has legit NFL arm strength. I think he's got a mind for the game that may help him, even though he doesn't have great feet and never will have great feet. I think he's got a mind for the game that's NFL caliber.
Yeah, I'm in wait and see on that one, but I do think the arm talent's there and the size is there for sure. And if he develops under Sark, and the whole key for him is being patient.
Yeah, patience. Running back, next group. We have Cedric Baxter, we have Jaden Blue, Trey Wisner, Jarrett Gibson, of course, as well as Christian Clark. A lot of wait and see in there for me right now. Have you seen enough from Wisner and Blue? I think we've seen enough from Blue to know that he's going to play in the league. We just don't know how high he'll be drafted or how low he'll be drafted. Have you seen enough from Wisner or Gibson to make that call at this point?
Yeah, Blue's going to be interesting for me because he needs to stay healthy and be productive. And I know he's fast. He can catch the ball in the backfield. But this 2025 NFL draft running back position is very deep. It's loaded. Last year it was not. This year's loaded. So there's a ton of production in college football right now and some tremendous players that have multiple 1,000-yard seasons 800 plus yard season. So Jaden's got to be productive the rest of the season in the SEC. I do believe that. I think if he has a healthy season, I think he'll be drafted if he wants to come out. I don't know where. Jarrett Gibson, I think, is showing signs of a guy. Obviously, Cedric Baxter, pre-injury, no brainer. He's a top 3 round pick to me. There was no brainer for that one. But that's a major knee injury. So we got to wait and see what he looks like coming off of that. I think Jarrett Gibson he's going to end up being that guy. I think the next big step for him is he's nicknamed Baby Rhino because when he sees and senses that contact, he is head down and bull in a china shop. The big step for him as a running back coming up, and I'm sure this is what Choice, and I think this is what Sark's kind of getting at with him, is eyes up more on contact. That's a hard thing for some running backs to transition to because they don't have to do it in high school, and they still run through people and go for 60. On this level, you got to keep your eyes up on first contact to see where second contact's coming from. So I think that's his natural maturation process. But as a runner, I think he's showing signs of a guy. Obviously, Trey Wisner, I think it's a bit too early for me there on him. And Christian Clark, just no way to know.
Yeah. You look at it because of Baxter's injury, it could be the position on the team where you don't know. Right. I mean, it's like the one position where you're like, is he a guy? Yeah. So we'll see. I do think that Blue's speed is going to get him drafted, even if it's as a boutique back. Right. That he won't be a guy that totes the mail 25 times a game. No. Not at Texas and not in the NFL.
Correct.
But he's a really good football player overall, in my opinion, and we'll see where that turns out. But look, Trey Wisner, not that dissimilar to Jaden Blue, maybe a little bit more natural running back actually than Jaden. We'll see where it all turns out. That may be the one position that I have a question mark. A lot of it has to do with the injury to Cedric Baxter, though. All right, wide receiver. Whew. Good luck figuring this out, Jerry. And it is a embarrassment of riches. We've mentioned already Isaiah Bond. I think that Matthew Golden's an NFL player for sure. We've already talked about Ryan Wingo. Let's talk about guys like Jonte Cook, possibly Jonte Cook, DeAndre Moore, maybe a Ryan Niblett even getting in there as well. Other guys that you're thinking of that have that capacity to be potential NFL players for the Longhorns.
Yeah, I think Wingo is a first rounder if he stays upright.
Yep.
I think Isaiah Bond's got a chance to be. I think Matthew Golden's probably a mid-round guy. I think he's a tremendous football player. And a guy the NFL scouts are going to like the more and more they see of him, especially in Sark's offense, by the way. Red zone threat, third down guy, factors in the return guy, physical. I think he's kind of a do-it-all player. And he will go fight for the football. DeAndre Moore could be like a Jordan Whittington where he just plays his role into the NFL. And he runs 10.8 in 100 meters. He's not slow by any means. So you kind of look at that. Silas Bolden is an undrafted free agent. Jonte Cook, we'll see what happens with him. I mean, he's got a future on some level. I think it's too early, the what part with him, the where part with him. But it's definitely multiple guys that are going to be drafted and in the NFL. And the great thing for Sark is they all have different strengths. There's no two the same.
Yeah, I would add, I'll tell you another one that I think is going to be an NFL player, and he's young, is Parker Livingstone. I saw him do some stuff in practice that kids his size aren't always able to do. That doesn't mean he's going to be a high round draft pick. It could mean he's an undrafted free agent. He's very, as a receiver, Jerry, he felt very Brennan Schooler-ish to me. Remember him, played offense at Texas, then moved to defense. That kind of long, lean athlete that can really run. Now, Schooler brought the hat a little bit differently, and so that's why he's a special teams demon in the NFL. But I like this receiver group right now. I could easily see 5 to 6 guys being drafted, if not in the league. It's just like I said, embarrassment of riches based on where Texas was. Tight end's different here. Gunnar Helm has absolutely played himself into being an NFL draft pick. Juan Davis is just undersized. I don't think he has a chance really in the NFL, even as an H-back type. But Amari Niblack right now, you mentioned him in your article as one that's kind of losing some steam because he's just not getting on the field and not showing what he can do once he gets on it.
Yeah,
You
his
know,
greatest strength is his speed, and we haven't seen any of it at Texas.
yeah, and that is an issue that we thought might be different, but we'll see. Spencer Shannon and Jordan Washington. I think that Washington has already acquitted himself well enough that we can kind of pencil him in as a guy that has that NFL caliber ability.
Yeah,
Would
he's the
you agree with
guy
that?
that when the scouts come through, they're like, all right, so who's this guy, Coach Banks? Oh, he's a freshman. Okay, and they write him down and remember it for this spring and the next couple of years. But he's that guy that the scouts are going to say, he's interesting right now.
Yeah. What about the offensive line? We've already talked about Banks and Williams. We think it's possible all of the other three get drafted as well.
Or
Jake
GoPro.
Majors. Yeah, Jake Majors. Hayden Connor is going to be an undrafted free agent at the very least. DJ Campbell, if he goes pro, likely there. What about the guys behind them?
Yeah.
The Cole Hudsons, the NATOs, Brandon Baker, Trevor Gooseby, and then the young pups like Daniel Cruz and even Nate Kibble.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got some talent there. Do we have any real feel for where they're at in this process? Like, is Cole Hudson going to be an NFL player, in your opinion? I think he will be.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance to be. So I kind of have him as we mentioned Banks, we mentioned Cam Williams. I have Jake Majors and DJ Campbell as guys who would get drafted if Campbell came out this year. That doesn't mean he needs to or should, I should say, but if he does, and I think Hayden Connor is probably an undrafted free agent. Cole Hudson, I think, is a guy that has late round potential, obviously, and he'll be back for another year. And if he plays center, if he plays guard, he's going to get a chance to show his versatility in the spring, even not in Saturday games. Beyond that, I think, look, it's kind of like Jordan Washington. I think when the NFL guys come through, so this young right tackle, we're going to write his name down. This center kid, man, he's an aggressive, quick kid, but he's not even playing this year. We're going to write his name down. Trevor Gooseby, you see how strong he gets, but his frame's really intriguing, and he's got good enough feet. Jaden Chapman, this kid's a good. So I think they have a lot of guys that are, and that's the latest development position. I think they have a few guys that the scouts are coming through saying, okay, we're going to put this guy on the list and we'll check back in on them in the spring and next season. But Texas has a number of those guys, which means you'll turn out a couple of NFL draft picks out of that group.
I just find it, I mean, we just went through the entire offense. Jerry, there's 20 plus players on offense that have an inkling of possibly getting drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, you realize that is just that is crazy. That is more than what Mac used to have.
Yeah.
Mac was really good at the elite level, but he didn't have the depth like this. Right. It's pretty strong. Now, the defense is a little bit better, a little bit different. It is not necessarily as deep, in my opinion, as the offense with draftable graded players. Let's start on the defensive front, where you have a senior in Barron Sorrell, who we think is a late round draftable grade, 5 through 7, 4 through 7, something like that. Then you also have other players like Trey Moore, who we think might be coming back a year. You have Vernon Broughton, obviously, as well as Alfred Collins. Where do you see that whole group, and who are the guys that you kind of stand out with and say, hey, these guys have shown enough at this point?
Yeah, I think by the end of the year, I think Barron Sorrell is going to be very popular with the reports the staff gives NFL scouts, and once they get to know him part.
Yep.
So, and I think he may be the most consistent player at Texas on a day-to-day basis. So I think that might get him drafted or in the league. At edge, obviously, for the guys who are draft eligible, I think Trey Moore, if he has to make some splash plays, because I think he's playing solid football. If he makes some splash plays in SEC, I think that elevates him, because I actually think his stock maybe declined from game one so far. It's him and Nyblack are my two guys. He's got to go make some splash plays because he's an undersized guy and he's playing his role and he's a football intelligence guy, but he's got to go make some of those difference maker plays. Else he'll have to come back another year. Ethan Burke's a wild card. I mean, look, if Ethan Burke just said at the end of the year, man, I've been in a couple of college football playoffs. I had an interception. I returned it. I've had a lot of fun. But, dude, I'm just ready for something different. He'd get drafted because he's that level athlete, and they'd see his upside. Does that mean he should go? No. But it means if he decides I'm done with college, I'm just ready for something new in my life, then, yeah, he'd get drafted. That's kind of where I come out. Obviously, younger Colin Simmons is going to be a freak show. And then you'll have to see on a Colton Vosick and Azdina and some of those younger guys, see how they develop. But I think Texas has a number of edge players that when the NFL rolls through, they're at least looking at the name, saying, who's this freshman kid? I can't pronounce his name, but Sark, he looks really good physically. I think they got guys like that. And this 92 kid, man, he has a great motor. We better just keep an eye on him. So I think that Texas has a number of guys like that on the interior D line. I think Alfred Collins is a draft. I think he's going to be a top 5 round pick, maybe as high as 3rd round pick. Because the one thing about him, he may not have big numbers, but he's drawn a lot of attention from teams, the opponent, Bobby. I mean, he fought through a triple team last week. Vernon Broughton, I don't know if he has the natural frame those guys like, so maybe undrafted free agent, but he's playing really well. Jermaine Lole, injury history, undrafted free agent, but he's a really good player. You have Savea, you have Bill Norton, some of those guys that will show up at a camp if they want to. Younger kid, Alex January. I think he's got a bright future, but he's the name that they're writing down saying see in the spring. But those names getting written down mean the NFL scouts like what they've seen from guys that aren't really playing a lot yet. Then you have guys like a Dre, who's a great athlete, but it's just not transitioning to Saturdays. And you have Sadir, who has a lot of ability, but he's still got a ways to go if he's going to be one of those guys to maximize his talent. And the NFL scouts are going to buy into what he's doing. So I think Texas has a number of guys there. But Bobby, they may not, outside of Colin Simmons, they don't have any high draft picks necessarily.
Yeah, I think that's fair because a guy like Jure Bledsoe may be the best athlete of the group, but he's not translating. He's not stopping. And from behind the scenes, it sounds like he just doesn't play the run very well for that position. He is more of a get after the passer type of guy. So we'll see if all of that translate. Sadir Mitchell also is one to watch as well. The strength of that defensive line room right now, though, is on the exterior. Yeah. I think that it's loaded with NFL players. Linebacker is really clear. We already talked about Anthony Hill. David Benda, another starter. Mo Blackwell, Leonga Lafau. Ty Anthony Smith has been a little bit of a revelation at this point in that room. Other than Hill, who do you think else has a chance to make the NFL in that group?
I think between the hashes, between the tackle boxes, Leonga Lafau's an NFL player. So I think it's going to be scheme dependent on how people see him. But he is an instinctive playmaking linebacker when it's not turn and run to the sideline situations where it becomes just pure athleticism and reactive speed, closing speed. So that could be scheme dependent. I think Ty Anthony Smith, if he can carry 235 pounds, there's no doubt he plays too fast and he plays physical and he can play in space and he can make plays outside the numbers. I mean, that's going to depend on his frame, where it goes. But I'm telling you, if Ty Anthony Smith gets to 230, 235 and carries it well, he's going to be a draft pick and he may be a higher draft pick than people think right now.
So you're saying just straightly from a draft pick perspective, Hill is definitely one. Ty Anthony Smith, even though he's a true freshman, maybe one or maybe number 2. Yeah, just from a talent and how he fits the pro game.
I think Bend will be an undrafted free agent and be in a camp, and then it's going to be up to him if he makes that team or not through special teams and being a backup linebacker.
Look, you've already talked. Let's go to DB. You've already talked about Manny Muhammad being in that top 50 range for you. A couple of seniors right now, Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba. I think you and I both think they'll be draft picks. Maybe just we don't know whether it's 3rd, 4th, 5th round, etc. They also have guys back there like Jalen Gilbo, who I think is going to end up playing himself into some kind of role on an NFL team. He's just too smart and too quick. A lot of experience. Who else is draftable? I mean, Derek Williams, we thought coming into this year would be. Maybe Jelani McDonald has that length. And then you have all of those freshmen who we've yet to really see who might separate in that group of freshmen right now.
Yeah, I think Makuba's playing. If his tackling translates to the SEC. I think even though he may not be as big as they ideally want frame-wise, I think he's got a chance to be a third-round pick level kid. I mean, he's just too smart of a football player. He's great in communication. He's helped tie the Texas thing all together. It's easy for scouts that watched Texas last year to see a difference this year, and he's the one big change. He's got a lot of things going for him, and he's making plays in the right games, in the right plays, correct plays as well. So I think Jahdae Barron will be very interesting from a draft standpoint. He's going to be drafted. I think he'll make a team. He'll be a quality player, but will it be as a safety? What's he actually going to play in the NFL? And I don't think anybody really knows that, right? But I think the one thing he's done this year is his play at corner has helped his draft solidify his draft stock as a football player, period. I think it's what's really helped him. Derek Williams, I think he had an interception. You want to see him make plays on the ball. You want to see him close angles quicker, maybe next year and the rest of this year, close some of those angles a little quicker. And I think he's got an NFL future. Outside of that, the young kids, we got to see Jelani McDonald. Look, if he plays relatively high level at the safety position, he's getting drafted because of his frame and his athleticism and everything that comes with it. So that's kind of a to be determined. But prior to his injury, I'll tell you this, it probably impressed the NFL scouts when they came through. Hey, this young kid, he looks really good on the hoof. Y'all are playing him at nickel and safety. So their initially thoughts, wow, this guy's actually got some intelligence about him. So that playing him at nickel as much as they did in the Michigan game, whether he made a lot of plays or not, that kind of grabs people's attention, I think. So they got a lot there. A corner, I think it's a bunch of unknowns. I think, Santana Wilson, that's his kid. Okay, we'll write him down. He's got good feet. We'll watch him in the spring, and when he starts playing, the Wardell Mack kid, man, he can really run. We saw him make a play on the ball in the film, so we're going to write his. So I think they got a Jordan Bell. That kid's really instinctive. I think there's a lot of guys that have their name written down, but no guarantees, so to speak, at corner for me.
Yep, or Kobe Black included in that.
Right.
I completely get it. Look, Bert Auburn, is he an NFL kicker maybe?
I don't know if he's going to have the leg power these guys do. I mean, these guys are sure trotting kickers out from 65 in the NFL these days. It's wild what's going on in the kicking and punting game in the NFL. I think he'll be in the camp as an undrafted free agent. By the way, I think Gavin Holmes will be in a camp as an undrafted free agent at corner. I want to mention that.
Yeah, I think he will be too because he runs so well.
Yeah,
we'll have to see if he actually can translate that into the NFL. He played a lot more this past weekend than he had previously. So we'll see if that continues tomorrow against ULM. All right, Jerry, let's sum this up because this is where it gets really interesting to me. A year ago, the Longhorns had a record 11 draft picks. Okay. If Cam Williams goes pro and DJ Campbell goes pro and Jaden Blue goes pro. So those three guys, we know Quinn Ewers is gone. We know Kelvin Banks is gone. I count 13 guys
possible,
going in the NFL draft. Not just making a camp, but being drafted. Yeah. Let's go down the list. Okay, I got it for him. Kelvin Banks, Quinn Ewers, Cam Williams, Isaiah Bond. Then you have Alfred Collins, Matthew Golden, if he goes pro, Andrew Makuba, Jahdae Barron, Jake Majors, Gunnar Helm, DJ Campbell, Jaden Blue, and Barron Sorrell. That's 13. That is an insane number of guys.
And that's not counting what Trey Moore does the second half of the season. And Ethan Burke, if he decides I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like that's an insane number to have in back-to-back years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if 13 is a hard number, if it's going to be 10. Maybe 3 guys don't go pro. Maybe 3 of these guys, maybe we're overvaluing a Gunnar Helm or a Jaden Blue or a Barron Sorrell. Maybe not. And I mentioned this on Friday morning. Texas right now has 31 players in the NFL on active rosters. They keep doing this where you're adding 10 a year. Steve Sarkisian is going to he's going to end up putting this up in the 40s and 50s pretty quickly. Yeah. And that's when the numbers change and the whole trajectory of a program goes from being one on the rise to one that sustains an elite level. But 13 possible draft picks, that's a
look,
number.
I think this is why, this is kind of the point of why we did this, is how much top tier talent Texas has. But you look around, was there any doubt, Bobby, watching Texas, Michigan? Michigan may have some higher drafted guys that are upperclassmen, but was there any doubt who had the more talented roster in that game?
No, was not.
That's kind of what we're getting at. And that doesn't mean Michigan's going to go 10-2 and make the playoff this year, but Michigan still has a bunch of NFL players on that team. And they'll have some draft picks on that offensive line at running back. They'll have some draft picks there, tight end, obviously. But Texas was a more talented team on the field, and it was pretty easy to see. So that's why I think, we did this today, is Texas is they're over 30 future NFL players on this roster right now.
Well, yeah,
more than, because of the talent they've recruited in 3 straight top 5 classes and being a blue blood in the portal. They have more than 30 future draft picks on this team, and that's why you're sitting where you are.
I'm just going to say this. I mean, I counted up 38.
Yeah.
I mean, last year I counted 33.
Yeah.
That's a crazy number when you have 85 scholarships currently.
Yeah.
All right. Jerry, last thing before we say goodbye, I want to say thank you again to Laura Baker. If you're out and about on Sunday morning or Saturday morning, make sure you check out the open house with Laura. Give her a call, 512-784-0505. That open house is at 5011 Avenue F, number B. And then Sunday afternoon, get out there to 8501 Bell Mountain. Laura Baker, 512-784-0505. Your Austin real estate expert. We appreciate her very much. All right, Jerry, we will see you later today at the Co-op, and then all day tomorrow. We've got our game day coverage. Not only do we have the Saturday morning conversation, we got the tailgate starting at 3:00. We're giving away a $200 gift certificate to Duck Camp. So please come out to the tailgate if you're in town and want to watch a little football with us while hanging out pregame. Watch with us starts at 6:45 with Aaron Hogan. Then the post-game live immediately following with myself, as well as Rod Babers and Brian Robeson. That's going to do it for today's episode of On Texas Football. For Gerry Hamilton, I'm Bobby Burton. Y'all have a good one. If you're coming up to Austin, be safe. If you're sitting at home, have fun with the friends and relatives, man. Y'all have a good one. Hook 'em.